little bit warm right now, but good for a lot of things, like the heat-loving plants like tomatoes and peppers and eggplant and cucumbers and squashes.
It's beautiful if it's so lovely and that the sun's shining and it's not 42 degrees. It's only 30-something, 32, 34 today, so that's nice.
It's not too smoky out there.
Yeah.
Let's start off the garden show with our tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
One way to avoid stress to your potted plants, wrap the pot in burlap. We're talking about these black nursery pots that we use to plant. Well, Don Stoltz, I was out at his place. He has a crop of peppers and tomatoes and things in pots. And it was his idea to put burlap around the pot. Because you know how those black pots absorb the heat and they
get hot.
They become really hot.
Super hot.
You put the burlap around them and bingo, there you go. And he's had great success doing that. So if you're finding your potted vegetables aren't doing that well, it might be because of the heat and the black pot. Put some burlap around them and you'll be fine. My plant of the week is the liatris, or purple gay feather, or blazing star is another common name for them. Beautiful plant, out in bloom right now in the Okanagan, and probably elsewhere as well.
There you go. I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that at this time, generally around the end of July or early August, you can go out and remove any of the long, suckery growth that comes on your wisteria vines. Wisterias are a beautiful vine. They get quite large and are quite aggressive growing, but they tend to really grow way too much. And so once established on your trellis or post or wherever you're growing it, you'll want to go in and remove those long, stringy shoots that are there at this time of year. By snipping them back and potentially leaving a small stub there of about 2 to 3 inches long, that can help to stimulate future blooms as well. Sort of like a grapevine, the way you'd leave a little stub there to grow. And that's the way to do it with wisteria vines. And now's the time to get that done, so before winter hits, those buds can set up and potentially bloom for the future. All right, now my plant of the week this week is the iris group, and not because they're blooming, but because irises, this is a time when you start to do divisions, and you can start to split them up, reduce them in size, cut them back to about 3 inches high, and move them around. I like to take a clump about 12 to 18 inches in diameter and relocate it or to reset it into its spot nice and shallow in that location, and get rid of all the dead scruffy stuff and just reduce so that next year they'll really take off and bloom like crazy. So August is iris month, so that's my tips and plans for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube.
Great tip, Ken. And, the interesting thing, that's the rhizomus iris.
Yeah.
It's one of the very few genus, the iris group, as you call it, that has both bulbous types and rhizomous types. In other words, a rhizome root and versus a bulb root. They're both iris. They're both the same genus, right? It's
a big family.
Yeah.
They have a lot of different types. I can remember back when we used to own a perennial nursery and we were doing a lot of propagation, Okanagan plant propagators actually at the time, and we would research all these different species and rare species of perennials and things, and we were quite surprised when we started digging into the iris group how incredibly diverse it was. And there was I can't remember how many, but like 800 or so different species and from all over the world, and it was just a fascinating thing. And then so we cherry picked some out, some that were pure red, like just bright red color, and you're thinking like, that doesn't seem like a normal iris color. But then again, and these weren't German irises, but like you say, they were probably more, and not really like the Siberian iris type, not quite like that, but something distant beyond the Siberian iris. So a small, grassy-looking plant with these bright red little iris blooms on it. And I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I remember we did get the seed, we brought it in, we grew it, and we actually brought a few in through to fruition, but it was not easy. And that's what we learned, was that some of these really rare and unusual species of plants that we sometimes like to collect, it's sort of it's better, thinking about it than it is actually doing it, because there's a reason why they're not common. and that's because they're
difficult to produce.
Difficult to grow, yeah. Exactly.
That's why they're rare and unusual.
You betcha.
Often people will say, well, what's your favorite flower? What's your favorite plant? And I often say the orchid group, the orchid family. But, there's pretty close competition with the iris, too, in the shape and form of the bloom that's so unique and so interesting.
It's beautiful.
So the iris and the orchids and things like that have that very exotic. And
your little tiny blue dwarf iris that pops up. It's a bulbous form, and it comes up each spring.
Yep.
And I could, every time I see that thing, because every year you go like, oh, my iris is blooming. We take pictures of it and everything, and it's just lovely. I just wish it was about 30 or 40 of them in a patch like that. Can you imagine? But
so you could come at night and steal one.
A chunk. I would take like a group of them. I wouldn't just take one. But it would be. It's just one of those things that it's patience. It's all about patience. I'm sure if you grow them for another 20 or 30 years, it'll get to be about 12 inches across.
Right.
The cluster.
I know.
I don't know. It's cool.
Today and tomorrow, we've got we've got some friends coming into town from all over across Canada, actually, and old musician friends of mine.
Yeah,
and we're going to get together in our backyard and do some playing, and it's magical, Ken. It's a wonderful thing after playing all these years with the different guys and having them get together and play music back and forth and toss things around. Lee Morin from Vancouver's all worked up. He's going to get a bunch of Beatle tunes all down, so that we can do our harmonies with the Beatle tunes.
Yeah,
he's a real famous Beatle tuner guy. And Bill Campbell from Toronto, he's going to come by, and he's got a bunch of tunes that an old friend of ours, Roger Law, he played, and they're his own tunes. They're composed by Roger, and Roger's since passed away, but Bill's going to bring him back to life by playing some of his tunes.
Yeah, how
so it's
cool
going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
And,
very cool.
Yeah, and I was visiting some friends yesterday, or two days ago, and out in the Mission, Tony and Angie, and they lost a son a couple of years ago, tragically. Mm-hmm. And it's been really tough on them, really tough, very tough, and which is very understandable. But this ties in with gardening, okay? This ties right in with gardening. Angie did something very cool. She got together some sunflower seeds that were from their yard, and she packaged them up into a package like this, and sent them to all her friends. And she has many friends. She's got quite a circle of friends. Sent them to her friends and family, and they called it Sammy's Sun Seeds. And so they all planted these seeds, of course, in their gardens. And Angie's been getting these wonderful responses from people, pictures of their sunflowers in their gardens, and saying, "This is for Sammy," and this is. It was quite touching when she was telling me this, and I said, "Well, that's something I could mention on the radio, because that's something that brings kind of not closure. I hate the word closure, but
celebration.
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 When you get that type of thing, people phoning or not phoning, but sending emails with pictures or texting pictures of these plants that you've sent the seeds out, and they're planted, and all over Canada, really, various places in Canada." So I just thought I'd mention that. There's something to do with gardening. I mean, if you're, we've done a similar thing for weddings and things like that. There was a fall wedding. I forget where it was, but there was a fall wedding, and little sachets of some tulip bulbs given out at each table, so they would take them home, and they would plant them in the garden, and that comes back every year and reminds them of the wedding day and the couple. And so it's a similar thing. You can do a lot with gardening. It's a very passionate thing to do. Gardening is one of those things that, even Angie was saying, she's finding it very fulfilling to go out in the garden. She's sort of got turned on to gardening, and it's very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're here to answer your gardening questions, or just chat if you want. We don't mind chatting at all. And 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling from out of town. It's a toll-free number. We're going to take our first break of the day here, And we welcome your calls when we come back after this short break. We are back with you on a sunny Saturday morning in August. It's middle of summer, and I remember when we were going to school and we'd have our summer holidays. That was big when you're going to school, the summer holidays, the big holiday.
Yeah.
We had the spring break, the Easter holidays, and we had the Christmas break, the Christmas holidays. But it was the summer holidays we all look forward to. Mm-hmm. And we'd get through July and into August, and we go, oh boy, we're halfway through. There we go. Just one more month to go. And then we're back at the slaughterhouse. Anyway, we say good morning to Addie, our friend Addie. How you doing, Addie?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing fine.
Oh, good.
Wasn't it a lovely evening yesterday? Just perfect.
Oh, it's perfect evening.
It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. It was just perfect.
Yeah, beautiful.
After all this heat. Anyway, I have got the spray you use on the tomatoes for them not to get the end rot and stuff. Mm-hmm. I started spraying my tomatoes was when I started noticing that they were blooming. Mm-hmm. And some of my tomatoes still have the root rot at the bottom. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got blossom end rot this year for the first time in many years on a variety called Starfire. Most of my tomatoes are fine. Certainly, the cherry tomatoes and the little grape tomatoes are fine. But the Starfires seem to, just about every one of them gets blossom end rot, and it is a calcium deficiency. And they say you can use the liquid calcium and spray it on when the tomatoes are the size of golf balls. That's kind of what the old instructions were on a product called Stop Rot, which was a calcium-based thing. Mm-hmm. And what else can we say, Ken? I mean, it is a calcium deficiency.
It's that and a varietal issue as well. So there's two factors, and it's actually a weather issue as well. When we do get this really high temperature, the tomato plants tend to grow quite quickly. And when the faster those tomatoes grow, the faster the cells are dividing and the more calcium that they need. And it's definitely a factor. So when the heat comes on, they pick up speed, and then the calcium's even more important. But sometimes it just doesn't absorb for one reason or another, and so all we can do is do what's recommended and hope for the best. What I tended to do was to not grow those varieties where I had issues in the past, because I definitely had some that were just not good. And actually the location as well. I had one location where I grew some tomatoes for 2 years in a row, and they would just always get blossom end rot in that one spot. So I relocated them to another spot, and they were much better. But even with that, I do tend to switch varieties when I run into problems, but I still do that calcium spray regardless. Mm-hmm. I just do it.
Should I be doing it more often?
I would do it about once a week and do it right from the beginning of the season. Like once the plant's established and they start to grow and the temperatures start coming up, let's say in June, early June sort of timing, and they're starting to look good, I start misting about once a week. And, just keeping that calcium coming in through the foliage and through the fruit too, as any fruits are developed. It's just a bit of a weird year for tomatoes this year. Like, I'm not seeing everybody having success. There's some successes out there, but we're definitely hearing about a lot of kind of poor tomato crops this year.
So if some of them have, like, my tomatoes are in pots. So if some of the fruit has the blossom end rot and some don't, do I just pick off the one that has it and then keep spraying it and hope that the other ones don't get it?
Yes, exactly. Because it's possible that the fruit started to develop a problem early on, and then you were misting and doing your thing, but it had already happened once. So as soon as that happens, the cells are developed with very thin cell walls. And even though the fruit looks okay, the damage is done. And so the fruit doesn't really show the blossom end rot until it sizes up a bit. Mm-hmm. And so,
my other question is, and this is a biggie, my morning glories. I don't know how I let them grow this. They're just overgrown. They're so thick. Mm-hmm. Like, how do I go to kind of weed them out now when they're all sending up all their flower shoots?
Yeah, you don't really weed them out, unfortunately. What you have to do is tie them up. And so that means...
Yeah, I've done that, and it's just that there's like 3 or 4 of them growing on the same stake, and you're just fighting for space and.
Yeah, just let them fight and keep tying them up, because what'll happen is they get heavier and heavier and start falling forward. They're just a lot bigger vine, I think, than a lot of people give them credit for. They need about 8 to 10 feet of vertical height. About 8 feet is sort of the minimum, and they will just push at this time of year. And then once we get into August, and that's when they really start to explode into bloom. So, are you getting any blooms on yours yet?
Oh, I'm getting tons of blooms. It's just that I'm thinking that they're too crowded, and that one little vine is fighting another one to be able to bloom on some space.
Yeah, but you know what? That's just nature, and in this case, I would just let them go, because if you ever tried to get in there and start pulling them apart, it would just be a disaster. Like they would look horrible, and they would get all crinkled up, and you'd break stems, and there'd be dead leaves everywhere. So as long as it looks healthy and you're able to maintain a reasonable water supply, they should be fine. But
they look very healthy. It's just that I was concerned that they're overcrowded.
Yeah, no. I've got a pot of morning glory, the heavenly blue morning glory, that I grow every year for my son and his partner. And he and she were in Europe for 7 weeks, and so we weren't able to get it to them. So this thing is on it's in a 5-gallon pot, and then it has a trellis that they're climbing on. And I just keep trimming it back to the trellis right now because I don't have room for it. Yeah. Then when I get it down, I think a couple of weeks from now, we're going to go down to the coast for a memorial, and we're going to take this down for them. So they'll enjoy it for the next month and a half or 2 months. They live in Kitsilano. That'll be fine. But then when they get it into the garden, they'll just let it go. But right now, I just keep trimming it to the shape, because otherwise it's going to climb up over my shop and in my greenhouse and, crazy stuff. It's really, but that's the first complaint we've had of something growing too well, Addie. Yeah.
It's not. It's just that I was wondering if I could do a better job of it. This is morning glories that reseed themselves every year.
Yeah.
And they're just going wild, and they're healthier. They're healthier than I've ever seen any plant in my garden right now. So, one last question. You were talking about replanting or digging up some of your the irises. What about lilies? I've got a bunch of different lilies, not the stargazers, but other lilies that I planted in a semi-shaded spot, and I want to move them into a sunnier spot.
Yeah, well,
is it them too?
Yeah, well, generally, once you're into the fall, meaning September, September is the month where we do a lot of perennial moving and adjusting, and so that's when that would be a good time for lilies. Yeah,
August is the only month for irises then.
Yeah. Irises and some other perennials, but it's a bit early for some of them.
Peonies.
Yeah, peonies are more end of August, early September sort of timing, and then so most of your perennials can be done either in August, September, or October, and so. But I would kind of wait on lilies until the September timing.
That's why the lilies are hard in the marketplace. They're hard to deal with because, technically speaking, the best time to plant a lily is dig it in September and replant it in October or November or whatever, do that transplant there.
Yeah, fall treatment.
So by the time they dig their lilies, the commercial guys, they don't have time to get them into the marketplace in the fall. So they put them in cold storage in the winter, and then they sell them in the spring. And they deteriorate quite rapidly in the spring in the containers and whatnot. Yeah. It's not as not the best. It's a very difficult thing to do to market lilies, but that's why in the spring we said get your lilies now as soon as they get into grab them and get them in the ground right away. Even though the ground's cold, get them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said last question, but one last question about my trumpet vine. If I cut it back to about a foot off the ground, they bloom on new growth. So will they bloom next year, or will they take next year off and then bloom the following year?
They will always bloom as long as they can grow sort of from spring till summer. They are good to go because it's a maturation thing. They always grow on new growth, or they bloom on new growth, but that new growth has to grow to a certain length, and then it has to mature to a certain point where it's going to produce buds, and then it will bloom. So, yeah, each year is a new year, and they'll be fine.
So if I cut it back like in October this year, will I get bloom next year?
Yes.
It will. Okay, that's interesting, because I thought that because this one took me about 3 years to get it really started and established, and now I see it sending up little guys. So I'm just going to have to snip the little guys off at the ground.
Yeah, those suckers that come from the roots of the trumpet vines, they can be very aggressive, and they can spread for long distances. So I usually recommend using a root barrier of some sort. So when you plant it, like what I actually did was I had a large pot, like a 20 gallon pot, so a big pot about 30 inches in diameter. I cut the bottom of it out and dug that hole about 12 inches deep or so and planted that into the ground, even a bit deeper than 12 inches, and then placed that ring in the ground, and then planted my trumpet vine within that, and that just created a root barrier where the trumpet vine could go ahead, do its thing, get as big as it wants, but it couldn't spread its roots pretty, not easily beyond that point. I mean, they can sometimes get underneath those root barriers or go right through the root barrier, which can happen over long periods of time, but
yeah, well, I didn't do that, so I guess I'm just going to, every time I see a new shoot coming up, I'm just going to have to snip it off.
Yeah, exactly. Not a bad idea.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a wonderful long weekend.
Okay, you too. Thanks, Addie. Thanks for calling.
And, I was thinking, too, Addie had her morning glory coming up from seed. I've got ipomea coming up from seed as well, all over the place. The time to really get them so they're not so congested is to, right when they first germinate, then you can weed them out, thin them out.
Yeah.
And that way you're not going to run into that problem she's had. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a short break here. We got Dan Bruce waiting for us in the bullpen, or wherever you call it.
Nice. All right.
We'll talk to you. We'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. Well, we are back with you, and this is a beautiful Saturday morning, and so beautiful. We've got Dan Bruce on the line. Dan Bruce, good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing really well.
Good.
Nice.
I didn't know that I beautified anybody's morning, but
yeah.
You put it that way, I'll accept that.
Now, you must have something really nice up your sleeve today, because you took the week off last week due to some telephone issues.
Well, I was forced off the air last week because the telephone decided to decline service for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. Did that crank on the side kind of screw up on you? That little crank that you cranked to get through, or? I'm just kidding.
You better be kidding.
Yeah, okay.
So I want to tell you about a well-traveled cactus.
Mm-hmm.
Way back on Mother's Day, 1949, my good friend Jim Dawson, mm-hmm. who was a little boy, well-behaved little boy, bought his mother a Mother's Day present, and he bought it in Gateway Drugs on Fisher Avenue in the Pas, Manitoba. That's in 1949.
Okay.
And what he bought her was a little ceramic pot with a cactus in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that cactus was accepted and kept in the house, and when they moved from the family moved from Manitoba to Winnipeg.
From the Pas to Winnipeg.
Both
in Manitoba.
They are both in Manitoba, but my flatland geography isn't good. And after that, they moved to Armstrong, Ontario, and that was in 1957. From there, they moved to Yorkton, Saskatchewan, in 1964, and to Chilliwack, BC, in 1968. Then the family moved yet again to Mission in 1972, where Jim's mother unfortunately passed away. And he was then working down in Bellevue, Washington. So he came up and collected various items of his mother's and took them to Bellingham, Washington, including the cactus. And in 2011, the whole thing returned to lake country. So around about 2018, this Jim and his wife Gretchen then downsized, and a number of items were given to me, including the cactus. Now, don't forget, this cactus is still in the same little ceramic pot without a drainage hole, rooted in roadside gravel from Manitoba.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
The little cactus that could.
The little cactus that could. Anyway, when I got this thing, I thought, well, I'll repot it. It deserves that. So I did. And you could describe the result as explosive.
Oh.
Because I gave it about a 7-inch ceramic pot with
a hole in the bottom,
some half-decent soil, not peat, of course, because cactus don't like peat. But I made a good soil mixture for cactus, and planted it in the middle. And as I said, it just erupted. And then it started to produce flowers. So at that point, I was able to identify it.
Oh, yes. Nice.
And it is indeed Mammillaria elongata, which produces small little trumpet-shaped white flowers all over the place in quite in early summer. So Mammillaria elongata is a native of central to northern Mexico. And kind of interesting to note that it was available commercially in Manitoba, Canada, in 1949.
Very cool. That's a great story. You know, this is what we often enjoy hearing stories about. You know, grandma's cactus or some another. You know, a lot of the Schlumbergias are around that have been in families for years and years and years.
Yes. Christmas cactus.
Christmas cactus
seem to go forever.
Yeah, they do. Dan, just one more thing before I let you go on cactus. Something I learned from you many years ago, that cactus are a North or an America's thing, like North and South America.
Yes.
Not Europe and not Africa and not India, not any of those areas. Although there is one cactus that is in Africa, from what I understand.
There's a Ripsalis cactus which is found in Madagascar.
In Madagascar. Why not Madagascar?
Why Madagascar? There's one in every crowd, you know.
Yeah. So what we need to do, Dan, is you and I and Ken go to Madagascar sometime. Anyway, we're gonna have to go. We got to take a break here in a moment. But great to talk to you, and a wonderful cactus story. It was great.
Well, I'm looking after this thing, and I'm going to share some photographs of it in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, yes. So Jim Dawson actually is still very much alive and well here in Kelowna, and he gave me the family history of this plant.
Well, that's great. You know, and that's a
cool.
great story. That's what gardening's about, and having plants in the house is about. Maybe we'll hear a few more stories this morning from people that have heritage plants, heirloom plants that have been in the family for years. Appreciate the story, Dan.
Okay.
Take care, buddy.
Yep.
Bye for now.
Thanks for
Bye-bye
calling. Bye-bye.
And it's amazing the stories that are out there about family heirloom plants. And I just helped some folks with a with a little oxalis plant, and it was in a big. This is the what do they call that? The common name oxalis of.
It's like a
shamrock of some sort. Yeah. Anyway, and it was the green leafed one, and it was in about a 7-inch pot, and it was all it had was one stem, one petiole with a leaf on it.
Right.
And the rest, it was just in there. So they brought it in. What can I do? This is my grandmother's plant. I gotta save it.
Right.
You know? Well, Ken. I took that plant, and they were quite amazed at what I was doing with this plant, because I took the soil all apart, and I found about 4 little teeny pieces of viable rhizomes.
Yeah,
okay?
Little roots, little pieces.
4 pieces.
Rhizomes,
I put them into a 2-inch pot, okay? And I put them in some nice potting soil into a 2-inch pot, watered it, soaked it. And I said, you take this home and don't water it until it's light as a feather, then water it again, soak it. Do you know, I just got a message from them 2 days ago. Grandma's plant is doing so well. Should I transplant it to the next pot? I said, don't touch it yet.
Don't
wait. Don't flirt with danger.
Yeah.
Let's just wait for a little bit, and then put it into a slightly larger pot. But here is a prime example of a plant in a pot that's too big for it, and it's trying to struggle, and it can't get that beautiful rhythm going that you need.
Yeah.
Air, moisture, light, all that rhythm going. It was just struggling and was saying, oh, please let me out of here. And hey, that one little move, taking those little rhizomes, putting it into a small pot, soaking it up, letting it go dry, soaking it up again, letting it go dry. That plant is resurrected.
Yep.
Grandma's oxalis is looking good.
Yeah, you have to get that. That's the whole secret, is this beautiful relationship between water and oxygen. You got to have air and you got to have water, but you can't have either continuously all the time. Unless you're a cactus, you can have air all the time, or if you're a water plant, you can have water all the time. But it's one of those things, finding that water rhythm where it's moist and then dry-ish, then moist, then dry-ish. You know, and that's the cycle. Keep on doing that forever, and the plant will thrive. And that's the key. Every plant has its own water rhythm. And it depends on the time of year, especially if you've got a greenhouse like we do here. When I bought some succulents from the Comox Valley nurseries, which is a great place to go if you want succulents. He's got a selection of succulents crazy. I bought them there, and on the tickets there's instructions. It says, reduce or eliminate watering through the winter. Water regularly through the heat, through the summer. And in the greenhouse, in the wintertime, I am so careful with my succulents that I just really back off on the watering. But now, with this heat, I can go in there with the open hose, with a not open hose, but a nice sprinkling hose, and just syringe the greenhouse, not worry about with cactus, everything, because it's so hot in there. Yeah. They're just lapping up that water. Succulents too, they do need that water in the summertime. It's just in the winter you got to be really careful not to overwater. That's for sure.
You bet. We're going to have to take a short break. We do invite your calls, 250-862-2525 and 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling from out of town or anywhere online. We will be back with The Garden Show after this short break. Ken, have you ever known somebody who's written a couple of books and actually making a movie out of one of the books?
Not personally.
Oh, my best buddy, Jerry DeHaze, we met when we were 14 years old, got a band going, had some, fun during our teenage life, and actually Jerry and I were standing one day at 14 years old, staring at the stars, saying, "What are we going to do with our life? Where are we going in our life?"
Right.
And we remember that quite fondly. Anyway, Jerry wrote a couple of books. One of them was named Gene, and coming up at the Mary Irwin Theater, he's going to be presenting this movie that he made out of the book. and he's done a heck of a job. I'm very proud of him. So I'll be talking more about that as time goes on here. But Mary Irwin Theater, and it's going to be coming up in August, and it is August 21st, 7 p.m. to 8:30. Mary Irwin Theater, $15 admission. You get the tickets at the Mary Irwin Theater website, and you don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. We're going to go right to the phone lines here because that's what we do on the radio show here. Chris from Victoria is on line 1. Good morning, Chris.
Oh, good morning, gentlemen. I have a question about my garlic. This is the first year that I've really tried to grow some garlic. We had very healthy growth, green, tall scapes. It was beautiful. But as we started to dig them up, they're all rotten. There's no bulbs. They're just black.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that happens. I have garlic growing in about 4 different locations in my garden, and one of the locations, they've all turned out like that. And that's because there's a disease in that soil.
Oh, gosh.
So,
okay.
And it's in that area. So that's where this crop rotation is going to be really important, to not regrow garlic in that spot again. For at least, you have to skip, I would skip all root crops in that area for a period of about 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even 3 years, I would say, really is the minimum. I had one area that had this type of a disease in it, and even after about, I think, more than 3 years, you couldn't really grow garlic there. So it was a fungus disease, and it's not a good thing. The other thing is also making sure that as soon as your garlic comes ready, which is usually around the 20th of July-ish, then you want to make sure you pull it out and get it dried up and not leave it for too long, because the longer you leave it in the soil, especially if it's wet, it will develop.
That brings up another thought here, Ken. Yeah, garlic needs really good drainage. Really good drainage.
Sandy
loam. Yeah. That's why certain areas grow better garlic than others. Years ago, I had a commercial garlic grower come in with exactly the same thing. The cloves were all rotting down below the ground. The tops faded very quickly, and not just faded at the tips like they often do. They were actually drying. The whole top was drying. Yeah. So they pulled them out, and of course the bulbs were all rotten. And at that time, I think it was rhizoctonia possibly that was the disease. But as Ken said, rotate. Don't plant the garlic in the same spot as you did this year. Try and find another spot for it, and try and get an area that is well drained. That's very, very important.
Okay. All right. Can I grow anything else then, next spring in that particular area? Anything with garlic?
Well, not a root crop. This might be specific to garlic, what you have going on there, so that maybe another root crop wouldn't be bad. But I wouldn't plant onions. I wouldn't plant anything related to garlic, to onions.
Yeah, so it's kind of a grass or bulb-related plants. Yeah. But you could definitely go like tomato plants. Yeah. You can go with, above ground crops, so that kind of thing.
So I can do spinach in there?
Yeah.
The leafy things?
Yeah, cabbage family, any of the cabbages. The patch that I had that was really bad is now a strawberry patch at my house. So, I just kind of, I keep rotating. I'm lucky I have about eight raised planters, and one of the planters got that disease in it. So then I changed it to strawberries. So,
all right. Well, thanks, gentlemen. That's some good hints there. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah,
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. We love talking to you folks. And we are now going back to the phone lines, and we have Shelley on the line. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning. My first time to call you guys.
Oh,
well,
fabulous.
Thank you for the call.
Yeah, welcome.
We have about a 40-foot tall sugar maple. It's about 30 years old. And I've noticed this year that it's got a lot of droopy leaves, over the last month even. And I'm calling you for some wisdom.
Is the whole tree drooping or just a portion of it?
A lot of the leaves, and it's perfectly balanced drooping leaves. It's not in one area.
Okay,
I climbed the ladder and I looked under the leaves. I don't see anything visible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and there hasn't been any disturbance around the tree, like anybody driving there or trenching or any construction in the area?
No, and our sprinkler system comes on regularly, so it gets regular water.
Yeah, and that regular water, always go and check it. So, like on a day, say if it ran last night, for example, and you know that area got watered, then go out and do some digging to check how deep the water actually penetrated, because how long the system runs equates to how deep the water goes. And on a tree, you got to be down 2 feet or so. So these
we usually have the water on about 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, again, you have to go dig to see what that looks like. And then if you dig down and it's just powder and dust, well, then you have to take some hoses and just trickle it. Mm-hmm. But I think Dawn and I are both thinking potentially it could be a disease issue, but number one is soak the heck out of it. Even just trickling a hose, because wilting is associated with lack of water. But why is the question. And if you add a bunch of water and the thing perks right up and looks great, well, then you're like, solved.
You know what the problem was.
But if it doesn't perk, then we go in the different direction.
The other thing is there's so many factors involved here, and one of them is something a little bit deeper, pardon the pun, and it is the fact that there's a thing called girdling roots, and if it was a potted plant and the roots were girdling, after being in the ground 15 years or so, how old is this tree?
Over 30 years.
Yeah. Once they're in the ground like that length of time, sometimes these girdling roots can constrict the tree. I've seen many trees fail, maples in particular, fail after 20 or 30 years because of this root girdling thing. And it's a slow thing, and when it's the entire tree going like that, it's like Ken said, either a disease, lack of water, or it could be the root girdling thing. Mm-hmm. And you can tell by looking at the extension, the growth extensions. There's segments between what the bud scales they call, and you look at those segments, and you might look back and see the last time it really put on a lot of growth was maybe 5 years ago, and then that growth every year, you can tell each year. And as it comes up, it's getting smaller and smaller, and then this year it's more obvious, more visible to the average person. Now, if you cut a branch off for me, a nice, decent sized branch, 4 feet long, okay.
Where are you located?
Oh, you're in
up on Tuvey.
Okay, so you're in the Okanagan. If you cut off a branch about 4 feet long, bring it to me. I'm on Rhonda Crescent downtown. Bring it to me, and I will have a look and just tell you where that started. Mm-hmm. That might be one thing to look at. Okay. Okay,
and what is the best time to come by to show you? What day of the week?
Well, I mean, you could come by anytime. We've got guests coming in this weekend, but I don't mind having a sample come in and look at it for you. So give me a call, 250-878-6878, and we'll discuss it after the show. I've got to pick somebody up at the airport right after the show, but this afternoon would be fine for you to come by.
I appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
Okay, dear. Yeah, thank you for the call. Okay.
Bye. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
On the radio, Ken,
it's hard to diagnose.
People sometimes wonder, do we have it pinned or not? It's pretty hard. You've got to sometimes see these things. Yeah. You've got to identify the species. You've got to identify
it's like a doctor diagnosing an illness over the phone or something. Yeah. It's a little bit difficult, and it's literally what we're doing a lot of times. But sometimes we see the same things over and over and over and over again, and we just know the symptoms so well we can ask a specific question and get an answer. Yeah. But in this case, I think in my thoughts, exactly the same as yours, is the age of that tree and this effect when the weather's super hot. There's something that's preventing the water from going up into that tree. Yeah. And are the roots healthy or are they sick? But ultimately, this girdling, if your plant is about 25 to 35 years old, in that range, And that's when trees really fail from root girdling. And the reason that the roots are girdled is for two reasons. One is it was potentially grown in a pot for years before it was planted. So the roots went around and around in a circle, and those roots get bigger and bigger every year, and eventually it just chokes the tree off. Or the plant was just buried too deep to begin with. And that's a problem where the roots grow straight up to try to breathe oxygen, and they end up girdling around the base of the tree.
And as the tree gets older, and that's why you get some of these rotation failures, too.
Yeah.
Not only just the tree failing, but the rotation, the tree collapsing.
Tree just falls over.
Failure.
You betcha.
We're getting to the middle of the show here. We're going to have to take a short break, and I'll tell you, tune in for the next hour because we got a blistering radio show for you, garden show for you when we come back with the garden show after this short break. Well, we're back with you on a beautiful Saturday morning. Well, every Saturday morning is beautiful. I've said that
right from the beginning.
Yeah, right from the beginning. Like right from 1983, I've been saying, a beautiful Saturday morning. Sometimes it's stormy and rainy and whatever.
Middle of winter.
Winter. Short days. Just speaking of that, we are now... we are 6 hours longer than the winter solstice coming up, but we're also about an hour and 17 minutes shorter than what we were on the June 20th. So an hour and 17 minutes we've lost in time. Still got lots of gardening weather, but as we go into fall, of course, the days get shorter and shorter and shorter. And before you know it, we're into the wintertime. But fall, we always say as we come into fall and the weather cools down, especially in the Okanagan where we have the cooler weather, the plants just take a breath of fresh air and they just really start to do their thing and grow really well. Big news, of course, with the BC Tree Fruits, the organization closing down. That's a huge thing.
It's a blow.
The Okanagan has been a fruit growing area for many, many years. And, of course, BC Tree Fruits was the marketing agency for the farmers. And the farmers that belong to BC Tree Fruits put their fruit through that organization, through the packing houses and whatnot. It's changed tremendously since I was young, and certainly a lot since the 40s, the 30s and 40s in the Okanagan. So it's a big change. I can't say too much about it because I don't know actually the ins and outs and the ramifications of it. All I know is there's a lot of people that are going to be losing their jobs over it. I think they were saying that like 120 people or something. But then, of course, it's all the farmers that now, a lot of the smaller farmers don't know where to market their fruit. How do they get the fruit out of there? How do they get them into the CA storage? The interesting thing, the CA storage is a controlled atmosphere storage. It was developed many, many years ago. And basically what they do is they take all the oxygen out of the air. It's just pure nitrogen in there. Mm-hmm. Take all the oxygen. It's just nitrogen. And keep it cool. They can keep those apples fresh for long periods of time. And so they're just as nice when they come out of that CA storage months later as they are when they're put in. So that was developed years and years ago. I remember back in the early mid-50s when I started hearing about CA storage, or controlled atmosphere storage. Mm-hmm. However, BC Tree Fruits, that's... an entity that's been around for a long time, and it is now gone, which is not a fun thing to think about. But I think they'll survive. The farmers have always survived over the years. Remember, back in the 30s, there was a big thing where they couldn't sell their fruit, and there was a saying: a cent a pound or on the ground. Cent a pound or on the ground, and that was their chant at the time. We're not going to sell our fruit unless we get a cent a pound for it. And that was back, of course, in the old days. Nowadays, it's a different story. And it changes, too. You know, the Okanagan at one time was just pure apples and some peaches and some pears, but apples were the big deal. And now, of course, it's switched to more cherries than apples in many ways. However, the cherry problem this year is another one. So anyway, we're going to go back to the phone lines, and we've got Maxine joining us, and I'm wondering if it's our wonderful Maxine DeHart.
Hi,
Hi, Donnie. It is Maxine.
It is Maxine DeHart. There's only about one Maxine around this town that really means something.
Careful.
Happy long weekend, Don. I was just delighted, actually, to sit beside you and Donna unfortunately, at R.J. Bennett's funeral. But, sometimes those things bring people together and you're able to have chats. So this is my reason for the call this morning. Dawn, I really wanted to thank you personally. This is from me, but from City of Kelowna, too, being a counselor, on the work you've done to help our tiny homes downtown. And, I believe you deserve recognition, and your volunteers and everything you've done. I remember when you and I met at Charlie Hodges at Christmas, and you came to me with the idea, and you said, Max, I think we could do this. We should help you, help these residents, help the city, and we should put up window boxes or do something. And I thought it was the greatest idea, and of course took it forward, and then through different people and organizations, it happened. But Dawn, it happened because of you, and I just, on this beautiful long weekend, just wanted to thank you for being the citizen that you are in our wonderful city.
Oh, Maxine, you're going to make me cry here.
Yeah.
Well, good. I hope I do, because we deserve tears. Because, we are trying to work and we're trying to do the best we can. And when we have volunteers and citizens like you, this is what makes the city thrive. If you don't mind, I'd also like to tell you, a friend of mine called because we have the homes there on Harvey. And there are a lot of senior citizens down there on McCurdy. And a friend of mine, she's in a quilting club. And she phoned me, and she said, we would like to make quilts for these people for their beds in your homes. And that was, so people are coming forward. They're successful, and I just wanted to, just a shout out to you, and I thought that was just really wonderful.
Maxine, I really appreciate the call, and I just want to say one thing. Of course, we did that to be of some help and whatnot, and that's my dad's old saying. We just want to be of some help. But look at what the real joy is, how the residents there have embraced that garden. They have just taken the bull by the horns, and they are just having so much fun with it. And gardening, as you know, gardening is, you come from a long gardening family. It's something good for the soul, and that's what's happening there. And I'm very, very pleased that that's what came from. I didn't know whether it was going to just turn into a pile of weeds or whether it was going to be successful. It's beyond successful. They're having a ball with it.
Well, when you help people, they tend to help themselves.
Yeah, you bet.
Sometimes. And I also like to, the person I was talking about the quilts, would like to give a shout out to Gloria Moore, her and her quilting people. She goes to quilting there in Rutland. I'd like to give a shout out to them because, that, like I said, that's what makes our community, Kelowna, the community it is.
Maxine, we appreciate that.
I will be on my way. I'm just on my way to the hotel. So have a great weekend.
Okay, dear. Thank you very much.
Maxine.
Take care.
Take care. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Yeah, Maxine DeHart does a lot of work for the city. She's right out front there. Her and Charlie and the rest of the councillors do a great job. Elaine Cameron, back in 1954, August 1st, 1954, she was cutting the lawn, picking raspberries. She cut off her lilies and other perennials in the south end of the border. August 2nd, she put away the sacks. And remember what we talked about sacks? Basically, just a water breaker. You take a gunny sack and wrap it around the hose end and let the water run, and it just bleeds out of the sack. Instead of eroding the ground around it, it just bleeds out. And you see, back in the days, we did water the gardens in that way. We put trench irrigation alongside of your vegetables. You'd have these little trenches, and at the beginning of the trench, you'd put your open end hose with a sack around it and let that water just run out of there and down the trenches. Great way to water, and really probably in those days they weren't as cognizant of the water situation, but it's probably a good way to keep your water conservation down as well, rather than just sprinkling around and spraying it into the air. Especially in the hot heat of the day, a lot of the water gets evaporated. Then she picked a large lot of broad beans and froze them. She froze them. But she didn't freeze them in her freezer. She didn't have a freezer. She froze them downtown at the lockers, the frozen food lockers on Leon Avenue, on Leon and Abbott, just right on that corner, right close to the corner there. And that was called the Frozen Food Locker. And we used to go there in the summer with my mother. We had a little section rented there because very few people had freezers back in the 50s. And you'd walk in there, and we'd dress up in our winter clothing in the middle of the summer. It was kind of a treat to go down there and see your breath in the middle of summer, in the heat of summer, and it's frozen. You'd go in there, and people would have an area where they'd keep their stuff. And that's what she did. She froze her beans and took them down. Well, she took them down there to the frozen food locker. August the 3rd, she said no garden, which is very unusual for her. She was out in the garden every day. And then August 4th, 5th, and 6th, she says, no garden, lame foot. It's fun to watch. Fun to see that. Having this diary of Elaine Cameron that she did every day. Little bits and pieces every day. And she does a better job than I do because I've got a diary too, but I don't enter it every day. On that note, we're going to take our first break of the second part of the show, and we will be back. We want to tell you that the phone number to get through to us is 250-862-2525, 1-888-780-4273. If you're calling from Victoria area or out of town, it's a toll-free number. We'll be back with The Garden Show after this short break. Well, we are back on the air here. It is a beautiful Saturday morning. I look across at the mountains there. There's not a piece of snow on the mountains. Oh, yeah. No, that's the wintertime we've done. We look at the mountains.
It's not wintertime.
Oh, there's snow on the mountains. No, there's no snow on the mountains right now. But we look across the lake, and we've got Donna, who's looking down on us from West Kelowna. Hi, Donna.
I am. I have a problem with my nasturtiums. They're growing like crazy. Yeah. And no flowers and little brown spots all over the place.
On the leaves, there's foliage. Yeah. There's brown spots.
Yeah.
Does the brown spot go right through the leaf, or is it on the surface only?
I think it's only on the surface. I'm not sure. But yeah, my barrel is just heaping with leaves and vines and no flowers.
So, are these seedlings that grew this year, or you just planted them?
No, yeah, I started them in peat pots, which that was a fight because they didn't seem to want to grow.
Okay.
And then...
what color are the spots? Are they sort of light brown color?
Yeah, beigey color.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking now.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't really seem like they're going right through.
Not black, though, or dark brown.
No, but the whole barrel is full of leaves.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, it's interesting. It's usually a weather-related...
the spots do go through.
Pardon me?
The spots do go right through.
They go right through the leaf?
Yeah.
Okay. And are they evenly placed on the leaf, or are they just...
Well, they're just all over.
All over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a paint splatter, Yeah.
Sort of Yeah. So it's a leaf spot disease that does occur. Nasturtiums are sometimes prone to those. Leaf spot diseases come about because of weather conditions, typically, and usually on these ones it'll form like a little bit of a like you say a sort of tan colored sort of spot, and then it'll kind of expand a little bit, and then some of them fall out. And leave a hole, or you can see right through the leaf in those spots. But they're semi-evenly distributed. That's also a sign of a fungus, because the fungus comes in as spores, and all the spores sort of germinate during the right weather conditions. So they all kind of germinate at once, and then they start to grow outwards until they meet each other on the surface, and they all seem to be fairly evenly distributed. But it's nothing really to worry about too much. Leaf spot diseases are common because of weather conditions, or sometimes water splashing, that sort of thing can stimulate them. But
why no flowers?
Well, are they what exposure? Have you got them in full sun?
It's in the morning sun. Yep.
Morning sun.
Morning sun should be good.
Yeah, I haven't got any flowers on my nasties yet either. They're just I have them reoccur every day or every year under my kiwi vines. And so they're in semi-shade, but they do get some sun, but they're sort of spackled shade. And they aren't blooming yet either. So, I mean, they sometimes have a mind of their own. My nasturtiums really start coming on as the weather starts to cool down a little bit, and they really come on in their blossoming going into fall. But on the other hand, I have had in previous years some earlier bloom. But this year we had that real hot July, which was different than most years. Most years we have sort of a moderate July, and then it gets hot again in August. And maybe that's what stalled the bloom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're likely to kick up in the month of August. And what you can do is pinch off some of those, the worst of the leaves. Like, you can't pinch them all off, but pinch off a bunch of them. And then watch for the new leaves that come out. And those new leaves should look nice and healthy and green. You know, and that's a sign that it was just like a weather event, and now they're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so look at the new growth, and that's key to just about any plant that you're struggling with. What's the new growth look like? The new growth will indicate if it's healthy new growth, then it indicates that whatever the problem was before was an event of some sort, and the new growth. When the new growth stalls and whatnot, that's indicating that there's something much more problematic, either with the root zone or with the plant itself. So. The new growth is key. So if you can get some good new growth on there, you're away to the races, and you will, I think, be satisfied with the results as time goes on here.
Okay. I'll try.
Thank you, dear. Appreciate it. Let us know how you make out.
Yeah,
okay, thanks.
Okay,
you betcha.
Bye-bye. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, these the disorders pop up here and there, and there isn't always a cure for them, but it's just, like you say, look for the new growth, and that's going to tell you what the future of the plant is often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We talked about it last week, but this is getting now into bud grafting time. So if you want to have some fun in the garden and do some bud grafting, you can send for my brochure on budding and grafting. It tells you all there is you need to know about that. And it's not that difficult. Some people get afraid of it, but it's not that difficult in many cases. Some things are more difficult to bud and root or to graft than others. You almost have to have greenhouse. Like, for instance, that conifer grafting where you're going to graft onto a stem, and you're grafting a globe blue spruce onto the top of a stem. That takes a little bit more expertise and understanding
usually
of how things
go. Veneer grafting, they call it.
Yeah.
And that is got to be done in a greenhouse. It's got to be a potted, containerized plant that you can move around, obviously, put on the bench. Bench grafting is another method where it's just right in front of your face where you can look at it closely, because, boy, that's a tricky graft that there's a way to do it, you know. And
lots of them are easy, though.
Some of them are easy.
Chip budding on peaches, chip budding on apricots, chip budding on many of the fruits, soft fruits, prunus especially, the prunus species.
Pretty
easy and fun to do, and it's just nothing like having putting a graft of something into something else and then have it come on and grow the next year. Is something satisfying about that.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah, very satisfying.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, so it is. That's what happens. We were just talking about grafting, bud grafting here in the last couple of weeks. We were talking how the scion grafting is where there's twigs, and that's always done in the springtime. And then there are these summer grafting, which is bud grafting or chip bud grafting. There's sometimes the terminology is budding, as you were just saying. And that's where, again, you just cut a bud off of one plant and insert it under the bark of another plant and stand
that's what's
back.
coming up now.
Yeah, this is what you do in August when the bark starts to separate, or it starts to loosen up its grasp on the cambium layer under the bark. And that's when, once you're into August, it starts to loosen up a bit, and then you can get a cut, like sometimes cutting a T into the side of the bark, and you can peel it open a little bit, making this little opening, and you can slide that bud, the new bud from another plant in there, and then wrap it up. One of the best things to wrap it in is masking tape. Masking tape is what a lot of the industry uses now because it's inexpensive. It decomposes over time. It's easy. It's doing its job for about 1 month, and that's about it.
Yeah, and you once it's been there for a month or so, then you just cut the back end of the masking tape so that it kind of slides and let the air into it. It's already grafted in there, already calloused in. We might have to, Donna and I might have to buy a new refrigerator. We're having so much fun harvesting our cucumbers now. We've got cucumbers coming out the yin yang, and but just yesterday she took one of the cucumbers out from the refrigerator down, and it was right down the bottom of the refrigerator too. Darn thing's frozen. So, I'm telling you.
That happens. That happens to me too.
Yeah, the refrigerator is not working properly, and I don't know. It may mean a new refrigerator.
You got to store those things up on the top shelf because it is often down at the bottom, especially bottom of the back is where
cold drops.
Settles, and it seems to be those long periods, like overnight. I think it's maybe in the summer too, and everything that's a refrigerator type unit is always working overtime. And it tends to freeze up a little bit, but I don't know. It's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. Well, just when we say, "Wow, we got all these beautiful cucumbers and that," and then we freeze them, that's not very nice. It doesn't work. No. Frozen cucumbers is not good. It's like last year. We did all that drying last year. We did cherries, and we're not going to be doing that this year because of the lack of cherries. We will do some fruit drying as we go into fall because we had great success with our pears, great success with apples. So we're going to be doing some of that, and grapes, a great thing. And the drying situation is such a wonderful way to preserve fruit and to have it. We got baggies of fruit. We froze the dried fruit, and then of course bring these baggies out, and I put it on my cereal and whatnot. What a great thing to do! And so we're going to the one drying experience we had last year that was really negative, and I suggest to people don't try this drying cucumbers. If you want to, you might as well just get some cardboard and chop it up and chew on that.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was like.
And I would say celery is the same.
Celery is the same.
Because celery is mostly water, same as cucumbers. And so once you dehydrate them, you're pretty much just left with a crust.
Yeah, tissue paper.
Tissue paper or something similar to that, yeah.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a break at the bottom of the hour. We've got another half hour to go here in the Garden Show. We always appreciate being here every Saturday morning. And we will take that short break, and we'll be back with the Garden Show after this short break. We are back on a sunny Saturday, and it's going to be warm again. That's the way it is in the middle of the summer. And we've got Pam joining us. Good morning, Pam. You staying cool at all, Pam?
Pardon me?
Are you staying cool?
I am just thriving in this amazing summer. Yes. Now, I want to say that I am one of those fortunate Okanogonites who have central air conditioning. And in the last month, it has been such a respite to be able to come into the air conditioning, and I can totally appreciate the struggle. Well, I can't appreciate, but I can only imagine the struggle of people who don't have air conditioning, and whether they're housed or not housed. Oh my goodness, that heat is pretty oppressive when you don't have any place to escape. But when you can escape, and then you can slip out in the early mornings and do your gardening, it's pretty great.
Yep, it's wonderful. And Pam, I grew up in the Okanagan, born and raised here in 1950, and up until 1979, I didn't have air conditioning. No air conditioning. So I know what we used to do is we'd sleep in the basement. We'd go down in the basement, the dungeon, and sleep down there just to get a night's sleep. Because I'll tell you, in the Okanagan, if you're up in the upper story of an old house that we had with very little insulation, and you're in the top, you were baking up there. So Dad and Mom would put us down in the basement. We'd sleep down there, right next to the sawdust pile.
Yes. Well, we have a property in town here that has 2 trees that were planted in the late 40s, and they are giants now. And the neighbors mentioned that they didn't have air conditioning in their house until the 70s And part of their survival mode was the fact that our large trees were impacting them positively with shade in the summertime.
Yes.
And so
exactly.
I think people understood the value of trees more when we couldn't control our inside temperatures as much. We understood some of the values that we take for granted now because we think we don't need them, but of course we need them.
Of course.
Hey, I was just listening to you talking about your dehydration journeys, and isn't it fun to explore different food products and how they react in dehydrators? And the last comment I heard you say was, I think it was you, Ken, brought up, maybe celery might not be such a great vegetable to dehydrate, because what are you left with after you dehydrate it?
Not
but
much.
I wanted to put a shout out for a plant. I think it's pronounced lovage or lavage.
Lovage.
And it's a perennial, and I have come to love it because it gives me a fabulous backdrop of quite tall greens if I want it in a spot. And that foliage I think it's a reasonable substitute for celery in cooked recipes like soups and things.
Absolutely.
And earlier this year when it was taking over my bed, because it as perennial things are apt to do, if you don't thin them out, they get to be gigantic. And these things were like 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and then going, wow, this is turning into a forest. I don't have room for a forest on my urban lot. So I chopped and pruned very aggressively, and I decided to dehydrate those leaves. And oh my goodness, I have a few jars now of this powder. I dehydrated the leaves and I put it in my blender. So now I've got this lovage powder that I have been using in soups and things. So I never buy celery unless we want to crunch on it like raw. Because for cooking purposes, the lovage just does the trick, and it's way easier to store, and it's way more economical.
Yeah, and it's way stronger, actually. The flavor is identical, I would say. It must be obviously a relative of celery, but it's like celery times 10. And so, like you say, if you have a little bit of the leafage dried, it's just a fabulous touch to anything you want that little bit of celery flavor in. Oh, yeah. It's been really great. And I have combined it with a variety of my dried bits, because I've been experimenting like you, Don, over the years with, well, let's see, will it dry? Will it dry? What will it be if it dries? And I have quite a number of powders, and I have decided that that is a significant way to preserve some flavor without dedicating many, many square feet to canned jars. For me, in my smaller house, it makes more sense. So that's my 2 bits. Perfect.
Next year for that, and you can't use it for the same thing, but I'm having some fun. I grew this tobacco plant this year, and it's a fabulous big leafed green plant with a beautiful blooms on top. Quite interesting. Not that I would ever attempt to use it as a tobacco source, but it was it's quite a plant. Anyway, we're going to have to go on, Pam, because we've got a couple of lines waiting for us. We always appreciate your call.
All righty. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, dear.
Pam.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we've got Ariel joining us. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning, you wonderful people. I'm asking a question which I know you've addressed millions of times, but I'd like to have a little bit more understanding about mildew. So the thing is that we got these stalks, and I've got stalks in my own house and then stalks at the other place that I go to. The other place that I go to, they're covered with mildew, and mine are not. Now, what is going on? Do I just rip these things out that are full of mildew every single year? It happens.
Yeah, it's remember that if you understand mildew, sometimes you can answer your own question. It's a difficult plant disease to understand. Sometimes some people think it's caused by splashing water or moisture on the leaves, which it's been proven that it has nothing to do with moisture on the leaves. It has strictly to do with air temperature and the right environment for it to grow. And so with the right air temperature, that means that the disease is ready to rip, ready to start growing over the surface of the leaf at any time, providing those temperatures are there. And so the species of plant is fairly specific because there are about 3,000 different species of powdery mildew. that come about, and they are fairly specific on what they grow on. But the key is with that is that the disease will grow wherever the conditions are right, and that means where there isn't something already growing. And so that's where we will sometimes say, oh, if you want to prevent mildew, you can spritz the plant with, compost tea is what some people use, baking soda and water, that's what some people use. Zinc dissolved in water, like zinc tablets that you would use for vitamin Z. Those are things you would use to prevent it, and it's because it takes up space on the leaf. Mm-hmm. Any preventative fungicides that are sometimes used, they coat the leaf and prevent it from growing because it just stays there on the leaf. So when the spores come in, they have nowhere to start growing. So that's telling you a little bit about that. Now you've got the same plant, same species in different locations. It's just saying that also plants that are under moisture stress are also more prone to developing mildew. And I proved that back in the 80s when, I would see a bunch of roses, because roses sometimes get mildew. They're all genetically identical, and they're all planted in a row like a hedge, but the two at the one end are developing mildew. And when that particular variety was a variety that didn't normally get much mildew. So I followed through, I went to the end, I went to the site, and I found that the sprinkler that waters those roses didn't work on that end. And that was the only reason why the 2 roses on the end out of 50 roses, only the 2 got mildew. And so that was because they had drought at the root. And so I knew then at that point, it was just proven that, plants that are under moisture stress that dry out a little too much are much more susceptible to mildew. So, these are all factors. So, you kind of look at all these different factors, and you look at one group and the other group and say, I wonder what the problem was.
We used to talk about the triangle, right, Ken? The
disease triangle?
The disease triangle, where you have your host, you have the pathogen, and you have the conditions. The 3 things, when they come together, then you're going to get mildew. And it's an airborne thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mildew is. Yes. It's airborne.
So it isn't in the soil, and so it's only on this particular species that this is happening. Yep. As far as that goes. But I'm just thinking to myself, what on earth, as you're going through these things, it could be the water, because we've had real issues with this situation down there where I'm at.
And this is stalks, right? This is stalks you're talking about.
Yeah.
The stalks. Now, these were seedlings that you planted, or they?
No. They've been there for years.
They've been there. Okay. And they just keep coming, and the same issues again. Well, I think the preventative thing, from what Ken's saying, the preventative thing is the best way to root, because once you have it, you might want to just cut it right down, have them regrow, and give them some prophylactic solutions, such as fixed copper, or Ken's solution of zinc and that sort of thing. I do have a sheet on mildew control. You might want to email me, and I can send you that.
Oh, sure. But I do cut them right back down to the very base every year. Mm-hmm. And they come up and they look great, and then bam.
Yeah, and you know what? It seems to be, the June and August are the 2 months where you're going to see the mildew manifest more than other times. So anyway, that's about all we can say on that one, Ariel. But give me a shout. I'll get you that sheet on powdery mildew. Yep.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, dear.
Thanks, Ariel. I think we'll be seeing you in a little bit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, just reminding you.
Okay.
You don't have to remind me.
Okay, thanks, Ariel.
Love it. Bye.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
And we invite and welcome Joanne from Victoria to the show. Good morning, Joanne.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I just have a question on bird of paradise. I picked up some seeds when I was in Hawaii last end of October, planted them kind of in November here, and didn't have any great expectations, and it's been, 9 months almost now? They're finally starting to shoot up. And so now I'm not sure what to do with them.
Strelitzia.
They need to be transplanted in pots. I'm not exactly sure when to do that, and should they stay indoors or can they go outdoors?
Yeah, I have actually some experience with that, because I'm germinating some seeds for a friend. A similar idea they brought from Hawaii, and it did take a while for them to germinate and finally come up. But out of the 3 or 4 plants that that he did give me to try and grow, the tea logs and the plumeria and the one that really has been quite successful is the strelitzia, the bird of paradise. The bird of paradise, though, you don't want to transplant them into a large pot right off the bat. Just gradually increase the size of pot and let them really grow into a pot and then put them out. Now, they will enjoy being outside in the summertime, but of course they would freeze if you left them out all winter. They're a tropical plant. They have to be in the house. Not too difficult to grow. But
that's encouraging.
Be patient with waiting for the bloom because it's going to take a while before they bloom. Sometimes a few years.
A little bit, and it said a couple of years. Well, I thought 9 months for the seeds. The blooms are going to take a little longer too.
And growing in a bright location, as they are a full sun plant in the tropics, they like the bright light. So keep them close to the window, and you should be good to go.
Okay, so I'll just move them to just a bit of a bigger pot. Independently, and then just kind of watch them for probably another several months, and then pot them again.
Let them grow into each pot. Don't transplant them until they're well established in the pot.
How do you know they've grown into that particular pot?
Sometimes you can pop them out of the pot, and if you see roots growing out to the edge of the pot, that's telling you that they've grown into that pot.
And normally, sorry.
It won't disturb them to.
Well, no, if you do it gently and do it, you just tap, 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 and turn the pot upside down with your hand, your palm over, holding the soil, and then just tap, tap, lift the pot off, have a look, and then put back on and tip it over. We do that all the time in the business because we're always looking at roots.
Always looking at the roots,
It's just a fun thing to do. It carries on the vacation.
Oh, you betcha.
Absolutely. And remember that springtime is a better time to do it. So depending on how big, if you're deciding, it's not quite big enough, why don't we wait till spring? In the month of April is a good month to do transplanting of all your tropical plants because they're just getting excited. The days are getting longer. The light is brighter. Sometimes the temperatures are warmer because they love warm temperatures, those strelitzias. So,
Yeah. Okay, well, that's really helpful. Thanks very much,
guys. You, dear.
All right.
And how's the weather in Victoria?
Oh, it's beautiful. I'm kind of in the woods here, so it's never too hot here.
Good for you.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Okay,
I love it, too. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye.
And on that note, we're going to have to take the last break of the show today. We welcome your calls when we come back with the Garden Show after this short break. We are back with the Garden Show on a beautiful Saturday morning. We're really enjoying this. And as Pam said, it's great to be gardening at this time of year with all sorts of things coming up in the garden and harvesting time, and also sowing time for fall stuff. I mean, I've got some really nice onions starting to germinate in the garden now, the bunching onions.
Yeah.
And I've got
that could have been our tip this week, too, to start planting onions for next year.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the earlier you get them, earlier meaning once you hit the beginning of August, get them in and they'll overwinter and be beautiful next year.
The Walla Wallas in particular.
Oh, love those.
And and those red Spanish onions that I grew last year, and then transplanted them in the fall. I took them. Actually, they came through the winter, grew in the garden but they didn't size up. So I thought, okay. So I lifted those bulbs and I planted them in the garden, and they grew into these beautiful, beautiful tops with the beautiful allium blooms on them. And as a matter of fact, I won a first prize in the flower show with those three things. And and of course they don't have much for a bulb, but what the bulb did develop down below was so tasty. It was such a different taste, a very mild onion taste. And of course, I love my onions. I will put onions on anything. We had a friend who we knew very well, great guy, but has since passed away. But he said onions are the devil's vegetable. He wouldn't touch an onion. He could tell if there was an onion in cut up in the soup, even soup. He could tell if there's onions in there. He just had he just did not like onions. So the devil's vegetable. But onions are a fabulous thing to grow. My dad and lots of farmers in the Okanagan, they grow great onions. Dad grew 1 year, the field crop of onions, they grew almost a train car load of onions.
Wow.
And they shipped them down to back east to Quebec. And he didn't hear from them. Finally, he got a call from Mr. Casorso, who said he did the same thing, couldn't hear from him, and he traveled to Quebec and went to the big warehouse where these onions were, and he walked up to this big bin of onions and said to the gentleman, he said, "Those are pretty nice looking onions." He says, "Yeah, you want to buy some?" He says, "No, I own them." I own them. And the guy said that it wrote back and said that the onions were spoiled by the time they got to Quebec, and that they weren't going to pay for them. So they got a bill for the freight, right? But Mr. Casorso fixed that.
He went there.
He went right there. He had the ability to hop on a train, go across Canada to Quebec, and walk into the warehouse and say, "Hey, nice looking onions." And the guy says, "Yeah, want to buy some?" She says, "No, I already own them." So there you go. Nice onion story there.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way it goes sometimes.
Well, I just want to mention again that my buddy Jerry DeHaze has produced a movie of his book Gene, Gene, Gene. And if you want to see this movie, they're going to premiere showing Wednesday, August 21st at 8:30 p.m., 7 o'clock till 8:30 p.m. at the Mary Irwin Theater. It's only a $15 charge to get in. I highly recommend you go and have a look at that movie. It's a very poignant movie, and it's all about a gentleman named Gene, and he has a devastating accident, leaves him quadriplegic. His world is shattered until a mysterious offer presents him with a chance for hope. What follows is a mind-bending odyssey as he finds himself transported into an enigmatic realm, twisted and distorted. Gene is a thrilling and thought-provoking movie. It is. It's very cool. I'm very proud of my buddy Jerry DeHaze for putting that together.
Fabulous. Well, that's great. Well, another great week here, and looking forward to getting more harvesting going on. You know, the tomatoes, I have hardly any. Like, I've got my cherry tomatoes. I do have a few, not very many, and they're green. I got one red one the other day and quickly ate it. The tomatoes, got a bunch of green ones. Had one turn red, and so I ate it. But
it's an interesting season, isn't
it? Not much going on.
I think
in
that
heat
had something to do with our delay the delay in the crop.
The beans are delayed because of the heat, and mine are blooming, but they're not producing any beans. So I'm hoping to get some little guys coming on, because we had a little blast of cold weather there just for 2 days last week, and I'm hoping that was enough to trigger them to produce some beans. You know, they need that cool nights to really get going.
I'll tell you, the one tomato that's just doing so well in our gardens right now is one called Sun Dipper, and I grew a bunch of the plants. I have one
Sun
Dipper.
Yeah, I'm not getting any fruit at all.
Oh, Ken,
I have flowers,
when you
no
come
fruit.
When you come tomorrow to see me,
you're going to see my Sun Dipper loaded with tomatoes, unless all my guests start picking them and taking them.
Yeah.
But cucumbers are doing well, but you're right. The tomatoes, the regular tomatoes, are not as prolific as they might be. And that Starfire tomato that I got from Therese Hodge, I'm getting a lot of blossom and rot. But you know what I'm going to do? I've got the tip coming up pretty soon here, and that is I'm going to wrap them in burlap. Wrap my black pots in burlap. See what happens and see if I can stop that blossom and rot from coming, because that might be helpful.
That might be part of it, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to start the tips and plants of the week. I've already given you my tip, but I'm going to say it again, and that is that Don Stoltz is. I was over visiting the other day, and Donnie showed me his pots all wrapped up in his gunny sack there. And he said the difference between this year and last year's tomato crops and cucumber crops and all his vegetable crops in the pots is like night and day. So wrapping
the pots in burlap is very helpful, especially in this heat.
Yeah.
My plant of the week is the liatris, the purple gay feather, or blazing star is another name for it. Liatris, a beautiful plant. Nice cut flower, too. You can make some nice arrangements with that.
Yeah, they're a good one. All right, I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week is that it's time to remove the long, stringy shoots off of your wisteria vines. The wisterias grow like crazy, and they grow these very long, stringy shoots in the summertime, and those can be cut back to about 2 buds, leaving a little stub at the end, and that will often turn into bloom buds in the near future. Maybe not next year, but the following year, it's a good chance of it, and it's always nice to get extra wisteria blooms. All right, and my plant of the week this week is the irises, and not because they're blooming, but the German irises right now, anytime through the month of August, great time to do divisions and to clean them up and get them ready to go for next year. That's my tips and plants for this year. Remember to check Grower Coach and growercoach.com.
Right on, Ken. My Shigo quote of the week, which we always end the show with: adjustments come 3 ways: passion, money, and legal. Passion is do your best. Money, to save it or make it. Legal, comply or else. There you go. That's a Shigo tip. And that's it for the Garden Show. We will see you again next week with more of the Garden Show.